Well, hello. It's Huck, and I guess first I should apologize. It has been a very long time since I posted a video, and so I apologize for that. I've not been real well during much of this time. I did go to the lung doctor here. Uh, I guess it would have been Monday, and so I've got some medications to take here. As you can tell, my voice isn't great, but I'm still alive and kicking. So for those of you who may have been wondering why I haven't posted, I'm okay. I'm going to get through this. And, like I imagine, like most of you who watch my videos, I'm somewhat taken aback, obviously, by the election results. I, I'm convinced that by later tonight, it's about 20 minutes to 5 p.m. right now here um, today on Thursday. And I suspect that maybe by this evening, uh, certainly by tomorrow, it will be announced who our next president will be. And I'm pretty confident, that will be Joe Biden. And, for those of you um, who feel like, without taking the Senate, as it appears we probably will not get a majority, we're going to fall a couple of seats short, it seems. Um, but for those who feel that we're not going to be able to achieve, everything we were hoping for with a Senate majority, and the White House and a House majority, there were so many things that could be addressed positively. And while that may be true, I, I can only kind of remind everyone just how terrible, um, in so many ways, Trump was able to, dismantle uh, and undo so many things, um, even though he didn't have both houses of Congress, at any time. Um, Now, the difference is, of course, that Trump has been able to have a Senate majority working on his behalf. So he was able to get a lot of his appointees through. He was able to fend off impeachment. He was able to get a lot of um, his judges appointed, uh, some of whom have dubious qualifications at best. Um, and largely because the Senate was um, in his favor, there are so many things that defied the rules, the norms, and even some of the laws that went largely overlooked, including the the effusive use of acting appointees to various different agencies um, who clearly were not qualified and probably couldn't get through a Senate confirmation simply because of um, the embarrassment um, that would ensue from the question. And so, at any rate, I bring that up because whether it's Bill Barr as his attorney general, whether it's Betsy DeVos, whether it's Steve Mnuchin, whether it's his you know immigration czar Stephen Miller, there are just so many people that will now no longer be in government once Joe Biden is installed into the office. And, same thing with the EPA. I mean, what do we have? A coal lobbyist is heading the EPA right now. So, on so many fronts, let's also not forget that there are so many things that the Trump administration is trying to do through the courts. And part of that has been the Justice Department has kind of backed them up on a lot of these things, including, this attempt to, again, get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which, will be coming before the Supreme Court later this month. The truth is, under the Biden administration, all of that will change, and that's all positive. I'm hopeful, not greatly optimistic, but I'm hopeful that because the Democrats will likely have 48, maybe 49 seats when all is said and done in the Senate, we are only going to need to be able to turn one or two seats, one or two votes to get, some of the things that we do want. I believe because of that, and because there will still be people like Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski in the Senate, there are going to be opportunities, even Mitt Romney, that if we get rid of the filibuster rule, which I believe we will, no, I guess we won't. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. With Mitch McConnell running things, that'll never happen. Still, I believe Biden has a chance to try to get some things done, some compromises done that let's just say that Biden probably is going to be able to get a little bit more done than Obama was, if for no other reason than because he's white, and maybe McConnell and the Republican base will be more willing to compromise, if it means that they get a little bit of what they want. But whether that comes about or not, just the fact that so many things are going to be affected by a Democrat, running the executive branch, we will restore our, our place, hopefully, in the world. We'll certainly be back on board with the Paris climate change accords. Will hopefully be able to take the threats from North Korea and Russia a little bit more seriously. We're not going to put up with a lot of the nonsense that we've seen out of the Trump administration as far as coddling Russia anymore. That is for sure. At any rate, I think there will be some big changes also in the Middle East as a result of this change. The executive branch, as we have learned, if we haven't known this before, has very, very wide discretion on a number of fronts that really isn't affected by the legislature one way or the other. And in virtually all of those, areas, domestically and internationally, we are going to be on a much better path than we've been. There's also a lot to be said with just being able to wake up in the morning and not have to worry about how, what craziness is going to ensue over the next 24 hours. Um, what mindless uh, and dangerous rhetoric is going to be tweeted out from, 7 or 8 a.m. in the morning. That will go away. I think it's also fair to say that we're going to see stronger efforts from the Justice Department and the FBI to crack down on white nationalism, which I think has proven itself to be, a great threat. And certainly, probably the far right extremists in this country um, are clearly, um, have crawled out under their rocks and made their presence felt over the last several years. And I think now that they have been emboldened, the one thing that we can be grateful for is that they've kind of shown themselves. Um, and I think under a Biden administration, we're more likely to start cracking down on any illegal activity by any of these groups or militias or individuals who who are uh, threatening or planning any kind of violence. And I think the FBI has kind of done a fairly good job of trying to keep tabs on this group, despite the Trump administration's coddling. But I think under a new attorney general, which I'm absolutely certain we will see, and some new leadership in the Justice Department, we're going to see a new emphasis, I think, um, on on those kind of civil rights issues. At any rate, that's what I'm seeing, and I've been watching this pretty closely. I feel like probably a lot of you do that. I'm just shaking my head that that 250,000 dead due to COVID. 100,000 a day new cases of COVID. Um, the kids still locked up in cages along the border. Um, the lie after lie after lie, the crazy nonsense, and just I'm just if a Democrat had been in office and done any number of things close to what we've seen from the Trump administration, you know, uh, the world has changed a great deal in the last 50 years. I can tell you that. Um, it's amazing what Trump has been able to do to the Republican Party and get them to accept. And not only that, I mean, there are more Republicans now that are really not just believing a lot of the fake, news, if you will, but I mean, really living in a fever swamp. Um, some of the crazy uh, conspiracy theories that pop out that are basically propagated, by Trump himself or by QAnon with absolutely no benefit of evidence whatsoever. The thing with these folks is that they label as fake news anything that comes out of legitimate journalism. And it doesn't have to be from the Washington Post or NBC or the New York Times. I mean, literally, whatever avenue it comes from, the AP, any major newspaper or news organization, if it goes against anything that, that that Trump endorses, then they label it as fake news. And yet, anything that Trump does endorse any crazy, outlandish, outrageous, um, uh, well, you know what I'm talking about, and folks that I can remember previously sane people that I know are all caught up into this. Um, Most of these people are not college educated. Now, this isn't to say that all non college educated people are living in a fever swamp, but it seems to be tends to be um, that tends to be somewhat of a prerequisite for a lot of these folks, from my understanding. I don't know. You can tell me what. We all know people like this. I mean, I've got some cousins. I've got some um, folks I know. People that live not too far from me here in my own neighborhood um, that believe a lot of this craziness. And again, I mean, if you ask them for any evidence, they the best they can do usually is to tell you, go do your research, or then maybe they will, tell you to go check out a certain YouTube video. I mean, come on. At any rate, this is where we have arrived at. Um, so I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed in my own home county. I live in the Mahoning Valley, which is combination of Mahoning County and Trumbull County. Um, it's kind of the Youngstown, Warren area of northeastern Ohio, right on the Ohio Pennsylvania border, basically. And this has always been considered a Democratic stronghold. Well, we did reelect, and probably the stiffest challenge he's faced to date, our Congressman Tim Ryan was reelected with about 65% of the vote or something like that. So the 35% or whatever that is dubious challenger, a well-funded challenger, by the way, um, secured is probably the greatest challenge. And I know he campaigned pretty hard this time around, uh, as did uh, as did his opponent. Her name was Christina Hagan. She doesn't even live in the district. Um, she failed to get traction when she ran for Congress in her home district. I believe she lives in I think it's Portage or Stark County, and she failed to win that nomination 2 years ago. By her own party, she was beat out by another Republican in the primary. So she decided to run here, and she's pretty extreme. But in the presidential race, um, Mahoning Valley went narrowly to Trump, both Mahoning and Trumbull counties, narrowly to Trump, which is, a sign, I think, that Trump has managed to hold on to a lot of the working class white Democrats, particularly male. Um, Now, the thing is, I fit that description to a certain extent. And of course, I could be I'm the farthest thing from a Trump voter you can possibly be. Um, but I fit that demographic um, in many ways. Um, and I know, I almost did a video. I don't know how many times I began to do this because of my health. I didn't get around to doing it, but I was tempted to get on my scooter and ride around, the greater part of my town here, in just my neighborhood and a little bit beyond that, to show you all the Trump, you know, signs and flags. Now there were some Biden signs. Uh, I had uh, I had a Biden sign and a Tim Ryan sign in my yard, um, and there were a few other Tim Ryan signs. Certainly a number of Biden signs, but I would have to say, as I drove around my town, uh, I would say that there were probably at least as many Trump signs, possibly a few more than there were Biden signs. And once you left the city, once you left the town, and you got out into the township, out into the country, so to speak, um, the Trump Pence signs and flags were everywhere. I mean, everywhere. You go out into farm country, for instance, and they were everywhere. Um, so I wasn't surprised, how Trump did, in the rural areas. I was very disappointed that in nearly won Mahoney County. Um, Trump 4 years ago won Ohio by about 8 points, and it looks like he did just as well this year, perhaps slightly better. Um, and so, I kind of went into this thinking that Ohio would be a little closer this year, but that Ohio was going to be lost by Biden. I honestly could have called most of this. I mean, I know there was a lot of talk about Florida. There was a lot of talk about Texas. Um, there was a lot of talk about Georgia and North Carolina. And in my estimation, I never really saw any of that really happening. I didn't think in the end that Trump would be able to carry Florida. Um, I really had hopes that Biden would do better in Texas, but I just couldn't see it happening. Um, I didn't really think Trump was going to lose Georgia, but it looks right now like that could happen. It's certainly going to be close, but Biden just might pull that out. It really is just going to come down to how many outstanding mail-in and provisional ballots remain to see whether he's going to be able to notch that. The race is exceedingly close in Georgia, so it could happen. But frankly, I didn't count on Georgia because with their history of vote suppression and throwing out purging voters and pretty much everything, I just didn't trust you know the the state of Georgia to allow enough Democratic votes. Um, Somehow I just felt that their combination of suppression and and voter intimidation or whatever would be enough to eke out a Trump win, and it still may be. Although I will be fair and say that the I've not heard any legitimate claims of any real voter intimidation efforts in Georgia or really much of anywhere else outside of maybe one or two reported incidents of um, but nothing substantial like I know was feared. Of course, I'm not in those places, and so I can't say that it didn't happen either. But I certainly haven't seen any reports of anything substantial in that regard. But but where I really thought Biden would pull this out were in the states of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, and the polls seem to indicate that Trump would be substantially behind in each of those states. Um, and so one of the things that is a little puzzling is the polls were apparently off. I mean, they were certainly off in a lot of the Senate races. I think going into election day, Biden was maybe a 4 or 5 point lead in Pennsylvania, maybe an 8 point lead in Wisconsin, and something similar, I think, in Michigan. He had big leads in Arizona. Um, you know, and uh, and those are the states that he needed. That Biden right now is holding on to. Pennsylvania being, frankly, if obviously if Biden wins Nevada, which I think is a given now, he's won Michigan. There's no question. He's won Wisconsin. I don't think there's any question. He's got a 20,000 vote margin and maybe 20,500 vote margin. And I know Trump will demand a recall there, but I don't know of any situation where 20,000 votes has ever been made up in a recall ever. I think you would be hard pressed to find anything over maybe 1,000 votes uh, ever being made up in a recall. But be that as it may, all Biden actually needs right now is to win Arizona, which I think he's got, and Nevada, which I'm fairly certain he's got. Um, and he's got it. He's at 270 right there. Um, Given that he's already won Michigan and Wisconsin. Uh, Anything more than that is a bonus. I don't see him winning North Carolina at this point. I know, votes are still coming in, and maybe it's on the outside possible. Um, Pennsylvania, I think, has got some real possibilities, though. And I know that the Biden campaign um, and a lot of people that I respect, people like uh, Bob Casey, the senator, a lot of people like Jim Carville, um, James Carville, former Clinton advisor, um, and others seem to feel really strongly that Pennsylvania is going to, when all the votes are counted, uh, Biden will actually be winning that state by something like 80,000 votes, and that remains to be seen, but that would be gravy. Same thing if Georgia somehow flips. I think Georgia is down to, last I saw, what was it? Was it 18,000 votes or was it less than that? I can't even remember now. But all of the votes that are still to be counted in Georgia, um, and I know it's not a lot of votes. They're talking about what, maybe 60,000 votes or something like that. Um, the ones that are coming in fairly strongly for Biden. The question is, can he make up 18,000 votes with only 60,000 votes or so to go? And so I think that's going to be a real nail biter. But again, Biden doesn't need Georgia. If he gets Georgia, game over. Just like if he gets Pennsylvania, game over. It's gravy. Um, so at any rate, that's how I feel. I've been watching this. I will admit that as I was watching the returns election night, um, you couldn't help but have a dreadful feeling of deja vu, like we had experienced this all 4 years ago. No one expected Trump to win. I, will admit that I certainly didn't expect, Trump to do as well. I was hoping that the same thing that a lot of Democrats were hoping, a lot of anti-Trump people were hoping, which was that this election was going to be an absolute, you know, um, repudiation of Trump, in big numbers. Um, and, and in the overall scheme of things, when we look at you know, when all of this is said and done, um, it's quite possible that Biden will actually win with maybe 270 electoral votes at a minimum, 290 if he wins Pennsylvania, maybe as many as 307 if he ends up winning Georgia as well. And but even without the gravy, um, when all the votes are counted and you look at how many votes in the popular vote uh, that Biden will win by, it will actually be a much greater number than the nearly 3 million votes that Hillary Clinton won by in the popular vote 4 years ago. So this was not a close election. It, in many respects, if you look at the Senate vote, the 47 senators right now that have won votes by of Democrats, And the 48 senators, if you add up the wins by Democrats and Republicans, um, the Republican Senate represents 15 million fewer Americans than the lesser number of Democrats that hold Senate offices. So when you add up the popular votes and you add up, the disparity in representation between the two parties, it's pretty clear, um, that we need to make some changes to the way that we conduct our elections as far as, uh, making things fairer and more representative of what the people are actually demanding. Unfortunately, we're probably a ways away from doing that, at least legislatively, um, because we can't seem to break that Senate um, gridlock. But another opportunity is going to come 2 years from now in 2022, and and hopefully things will look brighter for the Democrats to maybe win back control of the Senate. If there's still an outside chance we could do it now, but a lot of things would have to work out that I don't see forthcoming. I think that when all is said and done, we're going to probably end up with maybe 48 senators this time around, but we'll see. Anyway, again, I apologize that I haven't posted anything leading up to this election. Um, I have not really felt real well in the last few weeks. I am coming around though, and I'm doing okay. Um, I am looking forward to either tonight or tomorrow hearing that Biden has been like now. Who knows what chaos will ensue once that happens? We know, Trump, and we'll talk about that when the time comes. But I am confident that that it'll all work out. Uh, anyway, that's it for now. I thank you for watching, and I will see you again real soon.